Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this important forum to talk about eradicating cyberbullying here in Sri Lanka. Well, why eradicating cyberbullying? It's an important question. Well, it's a well-known fact that there is a rapid growth of internet users here in Sri Lanka, and a considerable percentage of them are of our younger generation who are less experienced to deal with the challenges of the internet, or especially the social media. In fact, according to a recent survey conducted by the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, 80% of cyberbullying offenses took place on social media. So, in the light of the increased incidence of cyberbullying that affecting our online community, Etisalat Sri Lanka has taken the steps to initiate to address this social issue. So, during today's forum, we shall discuss the social issue at hand and also some aspect of the legal framework that can help us to deal with it. And we have the guidance of Sri Lanka Computer Emergency Readiness Team, that is Sri Lanka CERT, to help us out. So, that's basically our introduction, and then in order for us to kick off our discussion, first I would like to introduce our panelists. First, we have the CEO of Sri Lanka Computer Emergency Readiness Team, Mr. Lal Dias. Mr. Dias is a Chartered Information Technology professional and a member of the British Computer Society. He obtained a computer science degree from Manchester University and an MBA from Murdoch University. He has been instrumental in the setting up of Sri Lanka CERT and serves as its Chief Executive Officer. Then we also have Mr. Yadav Madhyaparanam, Director Marketing of Etisalat Sri Lanka. Then we also have Ms. Amaya Surya Peruma, and Wonder Woman cosplayer at Lanka Comic Con 2017. So, in order to start our discussion, I would like first invite Mr. Madhyaparanam to share some insights and also to help us define what is cyberbullying. Mr. Yadav.
Good morning to you all. Cyberbullying basically is something that what we see as is a growing trend that is happening today. So just to give a very kind of simple explanation of what cyberbullying is, it's bullying that is taking place on electronic platforms. It's basically a bullying, which is an old concept, which most of us are familiar with, happening on different online platforms to digital platforms. And it's very simply going to the extent of how people use bullying on Facebook, how they use bullying on Twitter, how people would use bullying on, certain what you call communication applications, like let's say the WhatsApp, the Vibers, and also SMS. So this is basically what cyberbullying is. So in a sense, if we are to look at certain examples of certain forms of cyberbullying, it's actually how you would share certain messages which might insult individuals, individuals' preferences, individuals' character on these platforms, which obviously is to cause certain amount of harm to that individual. And this we see is something that is happening quite rapidly in Sri Lanka. Because what we are seeing is a lot of people are getting connected right now onto these platforms, and sometimes knowingly or unknowingly they may be doing this without understanding that this actually is kind of an act that can actually cause a lot of issues for people as well as society. So this is what cyberbullying is all about. Now, one of the key things that we see with cyberbullying today is that the people who are exposed to this are actually young people. Why I say young people is because the simple reason being it's actually the youth who are connected to these platforms today. They are the people who have access to internet, they are the people who have access to smartphones, so they are the people who are exposed to this. And what we see is that they are in certain platforms where They are openly subjected to this kind of acts, and they are in platforms where they are closed and nobody can see them being bullied. So it's in that sense the cyberbullying. I could really define what cyberbullying is really.
Thank you, Yadav. So it's clear as to what cyberbullying is all about, and also it's appropriate for us to talk to someone who became a victim of cyberbullying. So that's why we have Ms. Surya Peruma. Ms. Surya Peruma, you were a victim of cyberbullying. Can you please share your experience and also how you dealt with the situation, please?
Yeah, so this happened a little over 2 months ago, back in August, when Comic-Con was held on the 26th and the 27th. So basically, I cosplayed as Wonder Woman on the first day of Comic-Con. And at the event, the reception was pretty great. Like, there was no harassment, nothing. People were really nice and all of that. And then only on the second day that I actually first saw one of the memes, because I was pretty busy with all the Comic-Con things, so I didn't have time to go online, so I didn't see any of it. That was also because one of my friends like tagged me in one of the comments, so I saw one of these memes, and then I showed it to someone I knew, and then I found out that there were more than one meme. Like, there were so many memes, and they were trying to report the memes and contact the page admins and trying to get the memes down before I found out. So that's why I didn't know. And then I found out there were so many memes, and then so the photographers who took pictures of us on the event, so they had uploaded that by that day night. So even below those pictures, there were like really harsh comments, shaming and body shaming and all of those stuff. So I was obviously shocked at first, because I hadn't been the target of cyberbullying like that. So I was shocked, and I didn't exactly know how to deal with it. But what happened next was like unexpected, because, like, as I like to call it, the good side of the internet showed up, and basically there was a lot of support, and there was a lot of support first from the Geek Club of Sri Lanka and the organizers of Comic-Con, where it was, what was nice was it wasn't just like an organized collective effort. It was just people rallying up and saying, no, this is not right, this shouldn't be happening, so let's go report the memes to Facebook. And people were messaging me, people that I hadn't even known were messaging me and saying, no, it's fine, like, be strong, we're reporting these memes. And so this reporting thing doesn't necessarily work with Facebook, because to my knowledge, they don't have like Sinhala speaking moderators, so they don't really understand the memes. So unless you say it's a copyright violation or something, then it gets taken down. Otherwise, most of the memes didn't get taken down, and especially if the page has like a large number of followers, it's difficult to take it down. So a few pages got taken down, a few memes actually got taken down, but some of them didn't. So like, and it wasn't just me who was targeted. One of my other fellow cosplayers who cosplayed as Wonder Woman was targeted, and there were a few others who were also targeted. So one of the memes that were made out of one of my other friends, the picture that was used was one of the pictures that were taken by a good friend of us. So we asked him if he can report it saying copyright infringement, and that actually worked. So we reached out to the photographers who took pictures of us, but like most of them weren't interested in helping us out. So so it was difficult for us to take the memes down, because if they message saying if they reported saying it's a copyright violation, it would have been easier for us to take the memes down. But anyway, there was a lot of support, and then there was a particular tweet supporting us, which went viral, and it reached the director of the movie Wonder Woman, and then she showed support, and then when it seemed to the admins that it wasn't like going their way, they tried to reach like desperate measures. There was one meme where they used a picture of me and a picture of another person, a sexually explicit picture of another person, basically like character defamation, like trying to defame my character. So that was like the point where I was like that, like I realized how far this has gone. So and few of my friends like contact the page and said take that down, and they like tried to contact them, and the only reason they took it down, but the only reason they took it down was because that person in that other picture wasn't me. So if it was me, does it make it right? No, it still doesn't. So it's but somehow or the other, then the actress herself tweeted, and then the director tweeted again on like commending me on how I handled it and all, and then that's kind of where all these memes stopped happening. So like, but the thing is, it doesn't all be like people go through cyberbullying every day, like somebody or the other, because these pages, they just pick one picture or the other every day and make a meme. There are so many of my friends who've gone through it, still go through it, gets memes taken out of their pictures. So the thing is, it was easier for us to tackle it because there was a lot of support, and this happened at an event which was hosted by a large community. So I had that community backing, and then there was a celebrity backing, so it got a lot of exposure and media coverage. But the thing is, there are like, if the memes were made out of just a normal picture of me, I wouldn't have that amount of support. I'm not blaming anyone, it's just that it wouldn't go that viral. So there are enough and more people like that. So what about them? Like, there are people who are afraid to come out with their stories because they're ashamed of it, because they feel like they'll just get too much attention if they try to call it out on that. So this, like, I understand that cyberbullying, it's a bit difficult to eradicate it completely, but at least the platforms on social media which facilitate cyberbullying should be eradicated, and steps should be taken, like these meme pages. That culture of meme pages where they just make memes out of people is a public menace pretty much here. So that, at least that should be eradicated, because a lot of teenage girls, mostly even boys, get like cyberbullied on social media every day, and that leads to a lot of psychological problems as well, because that, like, if like these sexual explicit pictures get published online, and that trauma is difficult to deal with, because we are like, obviously that makes you feel ashamed, and then you can't go out to the world. And so, like I said, at least like these platforms which on social media which facilitate cyberbullying should be eradicated, in my opinion.
I'm sure it was a difficult experience to deal with, but we appreciate the fact that you shared your experience with us, because I'm sure your feedback will definitely help us to, I'm sure all of us are aware, and your experience is a testimony to understand how severe and how difficult or how negative the impact of such experiences is. So thank you once again for sharing your feedback with us. So now the question is, what are we to do? What is the legal framework, or what are the methodologies that we have in Sri Lanka to prevent such things, or how to minimize this cyberbullying? So that's why we want Mr. Dias to help us to understand. One important question, Mr. Dias, is that can you please explain a little bit more? Ms. Surya Peruma shared with us some extent how serious a negative post can be.
Thank you, Ramesh. Yeah, it's you just happens to be just one of many million victims around the world. Our own president, and even the U.S. president, gets offended on social media on a daily basis. U.S. hasn't found a solution. So you can have all the legislations in place, but the execution of it is the difficult part. But before I actually get to the specific point that you asked, I think it's important for the media to understand what Sri Lanka CERT does and what we are. We are a government agency. We were established in 2006, 11 years ago, as a result of legislation being passed, the Computer Crimes Act of 2006 being passed. And that is the reason why Sri Lanka CERT was established. So we have an act in place We have a Computer Crimes Act in place, and we have subsequent additional acts in place for e-transactions, for secure monetary transactions, etc. in place. I won't get to that. I won't talk about that now. But the reason why Sri Lanka CERT was established was not because there was social media abuse at that time, but there was no social media in existence in 2006. Social media came into being really in the last 3 or 4 years. There was, because Sri Lanka was at that time rolling out e-gov applications, providing citizen services to Sri Lankan citizens online. And Sri Lanka CERT was established to ensure that our systems that we rolled out to government departments were secure. So our role was that. And I must add that CERT, the name CERT, is a global franchise. There are more than 300 CERTs around the world. Each of the countries, most developed countries, have a computer emergency readiness or response team in their countries. And the very first CERT was established in the US more than 20 years ago. So we haven't done too badly. Ours is one of the oldest, one of the most mature CERTs in the region. In fact, we have subsequently established computer emergency response teams in the region, in Bhutan, in Bangladesh, in faraway places like Tonga and Fiji. We've, as a part of the exercise, they were all funded by various international agencies like the World Bank and the UN and the European Union. So that's the background to what CERT is. Now, to answer the specific question on what legislation, what avenues we have to prosecute this kind of abuse, we have several issues. Most of the social media establishments, service providers such as Facebook, Twitter, you name it, or a lot of them, do not provide us the information that we need to prosecute them online. So what we do is to help victims to get the Facebook post or the Twitter post removed. So we would go and approach once. So we have established connections. Facebook themselves have a CERT, Computer Emergency Response Team. So we have connections with Facebook. We have connections with the Twitter teams, the Google teams, and so on and so forth. So when people are abused, either online, either on email or on social media, we would then get the complaint and we forward it to them and we follow it up and get those posts removed. So we provide that service although it's a very difficult one to do. We have a very small team. We only run this whole operation with 14 people. But our main focus is on prevention as opposed to helping the police prosecute. Although we've helped I'll talk about that later, but our main focus is on prevention. We have currently a program that we run for school teachers around the country with the education department. We've established what is called a CSERT, Computer Security Emergency Response Team, for the education sector, and it's housed within the education department. And we run training programs countrywide for school teachers to educate children on how to be safe on the internet. We work with the National Child Protection Authority to run similar awareness programs, and we've established a unit at the National Child Protection Authority to take social media complaints, and that works very well. We've helped the police department. We've trained thousands of police personnel on how to take a complaint and how to address them. We've established a forensics laboratory at the police department on how to prosecute bigger crimes, not just social media crimes. So our main focus is prevention rather than, we believe prevention is better than cure. So that's where our focus is. I have with me my colleague, Purna Vikramasinghe, who handles day-to-day affairs, day-to-day complaints from citizens. You can ask him all the questions during question time. But basically that's the legislation is in place, yes, but the issue that we have is that social media service providers, such as Facebook, do not, they call, when we make a complaint, they say it's freedom of speech. So it's very difficult to convince them that there has been abuse that has been committed to an individual. So all they do is they help us when we justify it to get us to remove the post. That's all they would do. But they would not help us with the legislation. It's a big issue around the world, not just in Sri Lanka. As you all know, how the present government gets abused on social media. No matter what we try to do, it's not possible. We have meetings after meetings with big government departments on how to help them out, but it's not working. There are special task forces established by the Presidential Secretariat, a special task force that has been established by the Prime Minister's office, but we are struggling to deal with this problem. I mean, as I said before, it's not just Sri Lanka. It's even the U.S. president gets abused on the internet. So it's an issue that's going to get worse as we go along. But we need to be able to, and the answer to this is ensure that your citizens, our citizens, know how to be safe on the internet.
Thank you, Mr. Dias. In fact, the next question that I want to ask you was that what measures that Sri Lanka CERT has taken to minimize, and I'm sure you have already answered that question. So, so it may be the time for any of you want to ask any question from the forum, so that we'll be very happy to answer. And you can answer in any language, either Sinhala or English, that doesn't matter. The forum is happy to take any questions right now. ප්‍රශ්න මොනවා හරි අහන්න තියෙනවා නම් මේ ෆෝරම් එකෙන් සියලු දෙනාටම අවස්ථාව තිබෙනවා ඒක සිංහල භාෂාවෙන් හෝ ඉංග්‍රීසි භාෂාවෙන් ප්‍රශ්න අහන්න පුළුවන්.
If it is if it is a child, you can always go for NCPA, the National Child Protection Authority. If it is related with an adult, they can call us on our general phone lines and then get our assistance. But the thing is, we provide only technical assistance to get that post removed. And either they can call us or they can drop us an email at our general email. So we get them through the email or whichever they prefer.
And how would NCPA help? That is in the child.
Yes, they take. Yes, counseling as well as the the legal process that of course they conduct, because they have the law enforcement powers. In case of Sri Lanka, said we don't have that law enforcement powers like police to investigate and conduct these prosecutions. Technical aspects.
Right. And then NCPA would assist with taking it.
No, that's a whole different story.
Assist the person who's being bullied.
Yes, they are not taking any of our let's say like this. If a case reported to them, that case go through with them. That's up to them to conduct the whole investigation and get those people into courts and all. But if it is reported to, yes, separate thing. They do their own thing. And if it is reported to us, we only provide the technical assistance. That's the thing we could do.
And can you get that?
Yes.
But then assisting the person who's being harassed or being traumatized,
Yeah.
they handle it at their
Yeah.
level, and even if it gets out of hand because it leads sometimes to
Yeah.
how it goes. So they would assist in that whole process.
Yeah.
And they have a help desk.
Yes, they have the 1929. That's the helpline.
And what would your helpline be?
Not 112-691-692. That's the general phone number, and the general email is report@cert.gov.lk, report@cert.gov.lk. That's it.
I'm sure we will be able to share
Yeah, sure.
post this forum so that people are aware that there are help
Lines,
that
yeah.
they could call.
Something that we need to add as well, that the police has a cybercrime unit as well. So there is, I don't know the number offhand, but the police has a cybercrime unit. Police also have the Women and Child's Bureau, where you can report a cybercrime. Yeah, but you can connect to the police on their general line. They have a
That,
yeah, 112 or something.
Yeah, 11.
111.
General helpline.
General helpline.
Yeah.
And we work with all these agencies closely.
Any other question, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, please.
Yeah, I have a question to CERT. How responsive is CERT in terms of content, digital content? Should I repeat that? Okay. My question is to Sri Lanka CERT. How responsive is CERT to theft of digital content, which probably could be in the potential of being used for cyberbullying?
First thing, people think that CERT is there for social media related things. That's not the case. Our mandate is for information security. What we do for these social media related cases is giving a free public service, so people could be benefited, because there have been cases that people end up committing suicides not knowing what to do, even the simple reporting system. So once a case is reported to us, what we do is we give the technical assistance, basically how to report and how to get that thing removed. But beyond that, the time taken to get that post removed depends on the relevant social media site. Once you report it to Facebook, let's say for example, it depends on their teams to get that report post removed. That depends on them, and that's beyond our control to influence them to get this thing removed immediately. That's the
Some
issue.
content is removed within a week, within a few days. But some content, it takes a longer time to happen because they do their own research themselves, and they invariably come back and say, no, this is Sri Lanka special. So that situation is an issue that we have to deal with internationally.
What about out of social media? It's through website content.
Yeah, website contents, either Sri Lanka CERT or let's say the website owner.
Can I answer?
Yeah.
Website content. Take for example, phishing. A phishing email to compromise a bank. There are phishing emails that pretend to be, say, commercial bank or Hatton National Bank or whatever bank it is, and says your online internet banking password has changed. Can you please please change it? And what happens is they've already installed a keylogger there, and then your bank account is compromised. So in that instance, what we do is that we get the banks themselves have a CERT of their own. They report to us, and it's part of the CERT umbrella. We get the TRC to block that site as an initial step. But what happens is that website is hosted elsewhere. It's never in Sri Lanka. It's hosted somewhere else. So that gives us a bit of time to contact the hosting country. Say it's hosted in Croatia, for example. We would then contact our counterparts in Croatia and take the site down. So that takes a bit of time. Yeah, so that's how we take out content that are hosted elsewhere on the websites.
Ask about gossip post or something.
Content like photos taken off from a website,
Okay.
and it can be circulated through other not social media, probably
Yeah.
the site, the control over that, and this is locally.
Yeah. What sort of websites like?
Like we'll say, for example, the gossip site,
Yeah.
locally hosted gossip site,
Yeah.
something
Then
like that.
locally hosted, if it is a .lk, then there's of course there's the registration process going on when you are getting that .lk domain. So there's a particular person responsible for the website. So you can lodge a complaint at a local police station and get them to court. So go through that legal process. But the thing is, if it is .com, .net, .org, that would be a bit difficult. So you would have to contact the relevant service provider, and then request them about these digital copyrights things. Whatever the site is, there are always reporting option, because there's this Digital Media Copyrights Act in place. So under that, you can go through that and report your content and try to get that thing removed. Per day, 15 to 20. Over the course.
An email?
For all of them, what we do is giving that technical assistance. Once they, if it is related with fake account, we inform them how to report it through general report options, whether it is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, for that matter. And if it is hacked account, again we guide them through how to report it to the relevant social media website. And if that particular person doesn't have a Facebook account, but someone has taken a photo and then uploaded it to Facebook, so there's another separate way that you can report such incidents. So for such people, we give the instructions how to get such posts removed as well.
We are the organizers of the events that Ms. Amaya mentioned earlier, and one of the things that we try to do was directly contact people. Now, one of the things a lot of people realized who were engaging in direct communication was a lot of these people don't seem to have a proper grasp. They know what they're doing, but they don't have a proper grasp of the implications or how dangerous this is. Now, we talked about harassment being maybe something just to make fun of people, etc. But they also talked about people who get really affected by this and end up, committing suicide or something, which is a big issue in the country. So do you look, or do you see a way in the future to maybe educate people? One thing that I personally realized was a lot of these people tend to be from places that are more rural than urban. So do you have plans in the future to maybe educate or just give them a more clearer perspective of what they're doing, because that might help in a way?
Good question. I mean, I think I mentioned this before, but let me tell you that it is an issue, and a lot of our complaints come from very rural areas. We've got families when their daughters or sons get affected, coming all the way from places like Trincomalee or Vavuniya or Jaffna to come and see us, because they don't realize that they don't need to come. All they need to do is to pick up the phone and call us, and we can help them. But that's how effective they are. And there have been instances of suicides, not of recent, unfortunately. But we've created awareness. That's our role. Our role is not our role. I mean, our role is not social media at all. But we've taken this role because of the issues that we have. So we're in the process of National Child Protection Authority and the Women and Child Bureau of the Police Department. They do a lot of work on their own. But what we're doing is we are reaching out to these children through the education department. So we are assuming that every child goes to school. So The schools run their own awareness programs now, and the number of incidents actually have come down statistically, marginally. It has not increased because we can see that happening, because I think the young children are getting more and more aware, and the abused mainly are younger generation. Adults too. There are a lot of adults who get abused, particularly housewives. But we can see an improving trend now.
The measures we have taken. The thing is, as our CEO said, this EduCert program is currently underway. Under that, we are training 1,000 ICT teachers, and already we have trained 350 ICT teachers. If you, as of for yesterday, we have conducted 3 different awareness sessions for 3 different segments at 3 different places. And yesterday we conducted a session at Judges Institute about email security and all. And there was this session we conduct at SLEDA to public service managers, and at Hotel Mirage we conduct this residential training for ICT teachers. And there was these 3 programs concurrently going on yesterday, and today of course the second day of EduCert is taking place. Other than that, from August, September, we have conducted awareness sessions to Child Development Committee officers with NCPA, National Child Protection Authority, covering 9 districts. And we are continuously training these police officers how to deal with these issues once the complaints come to police stations and lodge complaints. And for Katana Police Academy, we conduct sessions, and Kalutara Police School, we conduct these sessions. We visit police stations and do these sessions. We have been currently conducting sessions at Goal in Service Police Station as well. And last year I went Monaragala, like rural areas, to conduct these sessions. Of course, SOS child villages, that of course we conduct sessions. These sessions are continuously going on. So in future we can be much better off, see some result of these sessions we are currently conducting. But these things are not eminent, but in future things will be much better off.
Just to follow up.
Yeah.
What would you need from, say, other groups, for instance, like ours, or others, because you said you're undermanned and good stuff.
Yeah.
So there are other groups that are very active online.
Yeah.
What kind of support would you need, or what kind of support would you need in educating or further? Because it's not just the children, it's
adults as
also
well.
people, young, the youth, who need to be more apprised of what the consequences are.
Well, one of the things you can do is we have a Facebook page and a Twitter page, and we post impending incidents. We post all our activities on those. I mean, most people have, and we post it on our website too. But I think if you can give publicity to our Twitter and Facebook pages, that will go a long way to actually spread the message. And we run little snippets, and we have a newsletter called Cyber Guardian, a monthly newsletter. We talk about incidents that have happened, how people overcame those incidents. So those are examples. Unfortunately, Cyber Guardian is only in English at the moment. We are going to publish it in all 3 languages soon.
So it's definitely made me more cautious. Like if I go to upload a picture or something, I double check the privacy settings, and then I also wonder, like, can this picture be used for a meme? Like, it always obviously works at the back of my mind. And luckily for me, I had a lot of support, so the psychological like the negative impact was way lessened for me, because I had a lot of backing. And like from day one there were people telling me like, it's fine, like we've all got you, kind of thing. So it was way easier for me. But then like you said, there are like way more people who don't get that voice. So well, one of my advices would be just like not to go engage with those pages if you are a victim, because I never did that, because there's no point trying to go and defend yourself in like below these memes and stuff, because that's not gonna work. That's just gonna make it worse for you. Basically just try to report them, and don't engage, like stay out of it. And if they don't have a voice, well, you also always have the option of reporting it to like CERT or NCPA or something. And also reach out for like, just you need that emotional support as well. So like people sometimes tend to keep it to themselves. This is like on a purely psychological level, like it's always better to tell somebody and get that support, because it's usually what leads to problem is trying to solve it on your own. So I would like, yeah, obviously not everybody's going to get that much of support, but at least like talk to somebody close to you so that it's easier for you to handle it, and then they can like guide you where to go, where to report it to. Because I would like, I wouldn't say don't do anything. Like some people don't do anything because they don't want the attention and all of that. Okay, be discreet, but do something about it, because the more we endure it and like ignore, like just like people say just ignore it, it will go away after a while. That basically gives the more we ignore it, the more it gets worse. Like those, like if those things don't get reported, those people don't feel a threat, so they just keep doing it. So I would say always like report, don't engage like face to face, or like comment there or anything, and always get emotional support from somebody.
Any other question before we wind up for the day?
One more question for CERT. Now, say the perpetrators of cyber crime are identified. How swift is the apprehension process? And if or when caught, what are the penalties or methods of prosecution?
For internet related this sort of things, there's no law as of now, but we do have a Computer Crime Act that it doesn't cover these, and these cyberbullying things related to that falls on harassments. Those are not crimes, and the issue is, as of now we don't have such law in Sri Lanka, but
but having said that, we've set up a task force to revisit the Computer Crimes Act, either actually enhance that to cover social media, because Computer Crimes Act of 2006, there was no social media then. So there's a commission task force that has been established by the President's office, and we're in the process of actually, we've had several meetings, and we're in the process of actually relooking at it with the involvement of the Aegis Department.
Okay, so I think it's time for us to wind up our discussion, and it's my pleasure to thank each one of you for spending time and taking effort to come here and to be a part of this very important cause, and especially our panelists. Really appreciate your insights and your comments and your feedback, and this is just the beginning of this endeavor. For example, by tomorrow morning there will be a pledge wall that will be open up in social media through Etisalat FB page, where we invite communities, our online users, to pledge to eradicate cyberbullying in Sri Lanka. So, and we intend doing many more other events to educate our online users, and also we take it seriously that it's something that we can contribute to the society as an organization. And so we would like you also to come on board with us to educate as much as possible the seriousness of cyberbullying, and to see how the extent that we can eradicate this menace from our nation in Sri Lanka. So once again, thank you very much for all your support. And just before you leave, we would like you to invite for a little refreshment here. And until we meet up again, thanks again. Thanks a lot for coming over.